I want to suggest something to you. I think that the reason so many of us have such low opinions of ourselves is we're looking from the wrong angle. That we have spent a lifetime allowing other people to tell us how we look from their point of view. But how often do you look at who you are from God's point of view? I know the people on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter have told you how you look from their point of view. But have you ever thought about what your future, what your possibilities look like from God's perspective? Have you ever heard something and when you heard it, you knew you would never be the same? That when you heard those words, they changed you forever. Such a phrase was the phrase I heard when Abraham Heschel, who was a Jewish theologian, was once asked, what does it mean to pray? Heschel said these words that have changed my life and how I view God. He said, to pray is to dream in league with God, to follow God's visions after him. What does it mean to dream in league with God? I mean, when we talk about God, we struggle to find words to define God. We make up polysyllabic words. We find big fancy words that talk about God. We say he is omnipresent, omnibenevolent, omniscient, omnipotent, ubiquitous. What kind of dreams does God have? I didn't know, but I knew my dreams must have been too small, because the reality is, for most of us, we really don't dream. For most of us, our life can be defined by what happened last week. As a matter of fact, our lives are in a rut, and we soon discover that if you're not careful, a rut will become a grave, because the only real difference between a rut and a grave is the length. And if you stay in a rut long enough, it would become a grave. For some of us, we've become the living personifications of what Langston Hughes lamented when he said, what happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then rot? Does it stink like rotten meat, or does it crust over with a syrupy sweet? Does it sag like a heavy load, or does it just explode? When was the last time you asked God for something amazing? When was the last time you dared to ask God for something that would blow your mind? Well, if Langston Hughes doesn't get you, maybe you find yourself like Simba when he's running from his Uncle Scar. He stops at the river as he's running from his Uncle Scar, and he hears in his ear the voice of his father, Mufasa, saying, Simba, you have forgotten who you are because you have forgotten who I am. You are more than you have become. My challenge to us, my challenge to you young people, and my challenge to those of us who have settled is that maybe we ought to dream in God's league. Maybe we ought to elevate our expectations of God. Maybe we just ought to ask God for a little bit more. I mean, think about it. If Bill Gates or Warren Buffett or Bezos had invited you to come and they said, tell us, what do you want? Would you really ask for a gift card from Walmart? Now, I like Walmart, but if the richest men in the world were to ask me, I dare ask them for more. Well, how many of us realize that every morning when you pray, you talk to the man who holds them in his hand? And I want to challenge you to ask God for something amazing. You're around here asking God for a promotion. God said, a promotion? I'm trying to give you a franchise. Somebody, hey, you're going to shout with me. You asking God for next month's rent. God said, I'm trying to burn the mortgage. I want you to look at you from God's perspective. The Bible has an ancient story about a young dreamer found in the book of Genesis, the 37th chapter. Genesis, the 37th chapter, verses 5 through 11. The New King James Version allow me to run through this. Now Joseph had a dream, and he told it to his brothers, and they hated him even more. So he said to them, please hear this dream which I have dreamed. There we were binding sheaves in the field. Then behold, my sheaf arose and stood upright, and indeed your sheaves stood all around and bowed down to my sheaf. And his brothers said to him, shall you indeed reign over us, or shall you indeed have dominion over us? So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. Then he dreamed still another dream and told it to his brothers and said, look, I have dreamed another dream. And this time the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars bowed down to me. So he told it to his father and his brothers, and his father rebuked him and said, what is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall your mother and I and your brothers indeed come to bow down to the earth before you? And his brothers envied him, but his father kept the matter in mind. I want to talk about dreaming in league with God. I want to challenge you today to see your possibility from God's perspective. 3 things, let me run through this. I'll share them with you. I intend to holler a couple of times, and before we leave, we're going to take an offering to help these young people at Prairie View. Amen? Is this mic? Oh, I'm talking on this one. Okay. We're going to take an offering so we can be a blessing to these young lives. I want to talk about dreaming in league with God. Now, I must confess to you that if we're going to dream in God's league, this is a wonderful story about Joseph, this young dreamer. And Joseph gives us some principles about dreaming in league with God. The first thing that Joseph shares with us is that you've got to seek your dream from the divine. Joseph dares to ask God for a dream. And you've got to ask God for the dream. Here is the dream. Joseph tells the story of Joseph, the 11th of 12 sons. Joseph says that he has a dream where the stars and the very cosmos bows in obeisance to him. His brothers and his mother and father bow down to him. Now here is why you've got to ask God for your dream. You've got to ask God for your dream so that your dream will be the right size. I live in a practical world. I've got some people who remind me all the time that I don't just deal with faith, I deal with finances. So when I have these big old dreams and they start telling me this is got to do this, I look at life through the prism of the practical, but God isn't limited to acting like I am. I mean, if you think about the kind of amazing stuff God does every day, I mean, if you just want to talk about God, I like what one writer says, that God can hold an ocean in the hollow of his hand and show omnipotence in a dewdrop. That God can ride the chariots of a midnight hurricane and at the same time walk on the suspension bridge of a spider's web. I mean, last night, y'all, God took light and matter, flung it against the canvas of darkness, and it became the midnight sky. That's the kind. God set the sun on fire, and nobody's ever had to change the bulb in it. That's the kind of stuff that God does. So what God says to me is, Delvin, you've been spending time playing on molehills. I'm trying to show you how to jump in the mountain. Here is the dream Joseph has, because you're going to shout when you hear it. Joseph lives in a culture that honors seniority. He's number 11 in 12. And Joseph said, I saw where God allowed me to be ahead. Joseph has the audacity to say that you've been asking God for little stuff and God has some big stuff that you're afraid to get. Joseph says Joseph says that sometime God will let you jump in line. Okay, my cousins are here from Hearn. My first best friend was my first cousin Gillespie. Now, when we grew up in Hearn, and in Hearn, you would want to eat in the cafeteria on Tuesday. You want to eat in the cafeteria because they served Italian spaghetti. But that's not why you wanted to eat it. They also had homemade cinnamon rolls. So we would line up in alphabetical order. My name is A. I was up at the front. My cousin Gillespie, my best friend growing up, his name was W. So what we would do is there was a conspiracy, and they thought we didn't know it in the cafeteria. They would always run out of cinnamon rolls. And they would serve sugar cookies to the people who didn't get the cinnamon roll. Like we didn't know those were the same cookies we had yesterday, but that's another story. So what I would do is when we would catch Reverend Mack, our assistant principal, looking somewhere else, I would let Gillespie come and cut in line. And Gillespie was able to get those cinnamon rolls. He was able to get a blessing that if he had to wait his turn, he couldn't get. Joseph says, God will let you cut in line. Somebody had better grades, but you the one got into class. Somebody here got a promotion, even though somebody else had more seniority than you. Somebody right now driving a car you know your credit ain't good enough for. Somebody got in a house that you didn't have enough down. I don't need everybody, but I wish I had somebody who can say, God will let you jump in line. Is there anybody in here who can say, I'm enjoying blessings that it wasn't my time for, but I'm here because God let me? I need them so my dreams will be the right size, but I also need them so my dreams will be the right substance. If you notice, Joseph never says God is going to give me anything. He says God is going to make me something. And we've got to be careful because in America we have transplanted the God of Israel who resides in the mountain with the God of America who provides me with money. That we have changed the God of the cosmos to the God of commerce. You see, here's what Joseph teaches us. Joseph teaches us that it is more important to be something than to have something. I don't need everybody, but I wish I had some parents in here who were raised by folk who dared you to be something, because one thing that these storms like Harvey has taught us is that you can lose what you have, but you'll keep who you are. And I don't pray to God to give me something, because if God just gave me something and didn't make me something, the real reality in life is that when God kisses your life with favor, it's not about how big your house is. It's about God makes that house a home. It doesn't matter if you're in jeans or a tailor-made suit. When God makes you something, you can walk with dignity because you know you are not what you have. What we need is we need to raise people who understand that if I don't have a lot of stuff, I'm still somebody. My grandmother, my maternal grandmother, we called her Medea. My Medea, Virginia Weber, taught me that you can have influence without having affluence. She only owned one piece of jewelry. It was her wedding ring. She lived in a house that most people would call a shanty, or just a 4-room house. I remember when they added a bathroom. My grandmother never owned a car. She didn't know how to drive, but I saw her walk with such dignity that I saw a grown man hide his beard. I saw a man burn a hole in his jeans because he didn't want my grandmother to know he was smoking. My grandmother didn't have a lot, but she was something, and she showed me how to walk with dignity. And when she walked down the street, she had something that says, if I don't have a dime in my pocket, my Father is rich in houses and land. And even if I don't have on a royal robe, I'm royal because I'm a child of the King. I need my dreams to be the right size and substance, so I've got to seek my dreams from the divine. But then Joseph shows us you've got to share your dreams with discretion. You can't tell your dreams to everybody. You see, the problem Joseph has is Joseph told his dreams to people who didn't dream. Joseph's biggest problem was he shared his dreams with people for whom life was a nightmare. And when people don't know dream talk, you just talking over their head. There are some people who will not get, okay, you look. Let me tell you that dreamers are different. It's in the text. Listen, if you got to be like everybody else, don't ask God for a dream. One writer has suggested that all men dream. T. Lawrence says this: all men dream, but they do not dream equally. There are those who only dream at night, and they awake to find those dreams erased in the resources of vanity. But there are others who dream in the day, and they are far more dangerous because they will seek to make their dreams a reality. Everybody dreams, but we got some folk who only dream at night. God is looking for some daydreamers who will work to make their dreams a reality. And you have to understand, Joseph was a dreamer. His brothers were not. And the great challenge in life is you got to find some folk who dream like you do, because if you don't, there are some folk who will try to destroy your dreams. Quit running with folk who don't dream. And quit looking for affirmation in non-dreamers. You got to be careful that you don't. I had a chance to talk to Epic yesterday, and I was telling a friend of mine, Denny Davis, who pastors over in Grand Prairie. Denny tells the story of going into an art store, and he said he saw an 8x10. It was $150. He saw a poster of the same painting for $75. And he asked the art man, and they said, now you expect for me to pay you $150 for this, and you expect, and I can get this for $75? And the man said, yeah, that's a copy. This is a signed original. You got to understand that you are a signed original by the master. And when God gives you your dream, you will not be like everybody else. If you got to fit in, don't ask God for a dream. Because not only are dreamers different, but dreamers are despised. Here it is. If you got to be like everybody else, don't ask God for a dream. But if you got to be liked by everybody else, don't ask God for a dream. I want you to grab this one. One of the most liberating thoughts that I have, just convictions I've gathered in ministry, is that there are some folk who will not like you. No, you didn't get it. You didn't get that. There are some folk who won't like you. You didn't feel it. Okay, here he comes. Here comes Joseph. Joseph is bouncing. He's in youthful exuberance. Now, Joseph has on a coat of many colors. He's wearing the evidence of the father's affection. Yonder he comes just happy. And when his brothers see him, you talk about a way to win friends and influence people. He already has on a coat that says favor, and favor cannot be hidden. If favor had been designed to be hidden, Joseph would have had an undershirt of many colors. The fact that he has a coat means he has to preach, Delvin, Atchison, I am. And he has his coat, and when his brothers see him, they say, Daddy like you anyway. And when his brothers see him, they get mad because Joseph says to these brothers, God has already shown me where I'm going to be elevated. You can't share your dreams with everybody, because there are some folk who won't just try to kill the dream, they'll try to kill the dreamer. There are some folk who will try. You can't share your blessings with everybody. Oh, y'all ain't going to help me. Because here's what happens. There are folk, they're not mad at you, they're mad at God, but they're afraid to take God on. They figure they can take you out rather than take on God. So you got to learn how to find some folk who like favor and who walk in favor and share your dreams with like-minded folk. And while I'm here, let me just get out there. And I tell folk, when folk try to say, well, you know, you're arrogant, you're bougie, I say, no, I'm just comfortable being blessed. Amen. I wish I had somebody. And I ain't trying to have favor. But while I'm there, let me tell you, you know what would mess, you see, here's what the haters don't understand about favor. They are mad at you because they see you blessed and they don't know why. Y'all, it would blow their mind if you were to tell them, I don't know why I'm blessed either. I wish I had some folk in here who say, I don't know why the Lord blesses me like he does. I wish I had about 8 people up in here. to say, I don't know why God keeps on opening doors, but he does. You mad at me because I'm blessed? I'm wondering why I'm blessed too. And if you really want to know it, you ain't seen the real blessing. The real blessing ain't the kind of shoes that I wear. It's that my steps have been ordered. The real blessing ain't the clothes I got on. It's the joy I got in. I tell you what to do. Go on hate. Haters go hate. Because I'm going to tell you, if I were you, I'd hate on me too. Because I'm walking in favor. I'm walking in increase. If you need somebody to hate, hate on me. Because every time I turn around, now, here it is. Find some people who want to be blessed like you want to be blessed, who are happy about you being blessed, and walk in covenant with those. Don't share your blessings. Here it is. I preach longer than I want to. Let me do this, okay? So Brenda and I was preaching for Dwight McKissick over at Cornerstone, and he had put me in this hotel. We're getting ready to go up because I had to go change. I'm doing some youth training. We get in the elevator, and when we get in the elevator, I push the 4th floor. Nothing happens. I got to go change because what I want is on another level. I need to change so I can go get it. Push the elevator, nothing happens. Finally, I look outside, and there were a group of young people who were on their way to the pool. They were there for another conference. But every time I would push my floor, they would push the button, and the elevator's doors wouldn't close because they were pushing the button. They had already decided they weren't going up. They were going to play. I'm trying to get to another level. I wouldn't bring it up, but who do you let push your buttons? Who did you tell your dream to and they got you stuck and you won't move? They keep telling you it doesn't take all of that. You got to seek your dreams from the divine, share your dreams with discretion, but you've got to secure your dreams with determination. Y'all, somewhere between the dream and the reality, the saddle falls. Because you would think when God showed Joseph the dream, it's like, go get it. But he doesn't. The pathway to your dreams is going to be strange. Because God shows him the dream, he doesn't go to a place of elevation. He goes into a pit. He goes in the pit. The Bible says there's nothing in there. God keeps him even in the pit. From the pit, he goes to a man named Potiphar's house. When he gets to Potiphar's house, Mrs. Potiphar sees Joseph and says, all right, Joseph. Ain't nobody here but us. And Joseph said, no, God is here. And young people, hear this, hear this, hear this. Joseph says no to Miss Potiphar because he doesn't want his talent to take him where his character can't keep him. Because if you go, you'll catch a touchdown for a team on a Sunday and they'll have to release you because of text and stuff you did on them. He goes from Potiphar's to the prison. He has some boys that say, I got your back. And when he looks back, they are way back. He goes from that and God finally elevates him. All I'm trying to tell you is that if where you are does not look like where God has promised, you're not finished yet. Don't quit on God because it doesn't look like where he promised. If the class doesn't look like what he promised, if the job isn't looking like it, if the ministry, don't you quit on God. You see, when God anointed David to be king, David does not go to the palace, he went to a pasture. But every time David got ready to give up, he remembered what the oil felt like. And that's all I'm trying to tell you. I know you want to quit. I know it's tough. I know family is saying there's some decisions you ought to make because you're not at your dream, but you remember what the oil felt like. And every now and then you just got to steal away and look at what God promised, and you got to encourage yourself and say, it ain't over yet. It ain't. I wish I had somebody. I wish I had about 6 people who were feeling me. You've been looking for God to turn that thing around. It ain't over yet. And I got a shout for you. It is even though the pathway to the dream is strange, the presence of the divine will sustain you. Here is my shout on my way out. I ain't playing, y'all. There is one line in the life of David, the life of Joseph that kept him going. The Bible says the Lord was with Joseph. Now here it is. God always rolls with an entourage. That wherever you find him, you got to find his protection. You got to find his provision. God is with us in the pits of life, taking care of us. God is with us in the palaces of life, keeping us from our own destruction. The Lord is with you, and if you are going through, you are not by yourself. The Lord is with you. I heard a story about 3 little trees. These little branches were growing, these little bushes were growing up on a cliff, and as they were growing on a cliff, the first tree says, when I grow up, I want to be a treasure chest. I want to be decorated with ornate diamonds and hold great jewels. I want to be a treasure chest. That second little tree, as he looked over the cliff and saw the river going by, he said, I want to be a mighty sea-sailing vessel. I want to take cargo from port to port. When I grow up, I want to be a sea-sailing vessel. That third tree said, I just want to stay right here on this mountain and keep my arms reaching up, pointing me into God. Well, time went by. They had just about forgotten their dreams, and one felt the axe of the woodsman, and that first tree that wanted to be a treasure chest overheard the woodsman say, I tell you what I need a trough to feed my animals in. And instead of a treasure chest, he was made into a trough. That second tree that wanted to be a mighty sea-sailing vessel, when he was taken to the shipman said, he's too small. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to make him a fishing boat. That third tree was just cut down. And when he was cut down, he was just left to dry. Well, the years went by, and they had just about forgotten their dreams until on a cold night in Bethlehem, that first tree that wanted to be a treasure chest overheard the innkeeper say, I don't have any room in the inn. But if you wrap your baby in swaddling clothing, you can put him in the trough that I had for the animal. And that tree that wanted to be a treasure chest realized he held the greatest treasure that the world had ever known. That tree that was made into a fishing boat and wanted to carry mighty cargo from port to port. One stormy evening, he heard a sleepy passenger come from below deck and fuss at the wind and said, peace, be still. And it dawned on him he held the mightiest cargo that the world had ever known. That third tree that was just cut down overheard a Galilean cross maker say any piece of wood would do. And he felt it as he was placed upon the back of a carpenter as he was marched in the sun up a hill called Golgotha. He wanted to point men to God. He felt the nails as they were pushed in his hands. He felt the jolt as he was dropped on that hill. And that tree that wanted to point men to God became an old rugged cross. And it was at that cross that I first saw the light. And the burdens of my heart were rolled away. It was there by faith I received my sight. And right now I'm happy all the day. I got a dream. I dreamed of a city. It was called Glory. It was bright and so fair. When I entered the gates of that city, my loved ones, they met me there. They led me from mansion to mansion, and all the sights I saw. But I said I want to see Jesus. He's the one that died for us all. Is there anybody here that want to see my Jesus? Is there anybody here that want to see my Lord? Is there anybody here know that he's a mighty good friend? Is there anybody here know he'll give you a dream? Is there anybody here know he'll stand by your side? Anybody here want to tell the Lord thank you because he's given you a dream? Anybody here that the Lord has made a way for? Anybody here that God has opened the door for? Anybody here that the Lord has blessed? If he's been good to you, you ought to help me praise him. Is he worthy? I said, is he worthy? Is he worthy? Can you say yes? Say yes. Oh, yes. I know we got to go. I know we got company. But I got one shout in my spirit. Can I get my shout out?